Hi everybody, I wanted today to do something on Christianity and the Christ impulse through the Gurdjieff work and what Gurdjieff has to say about Christ, Christianity and such like. And he's often said to be saying that what he's doing is esoteric Christianity. Obviously in his day when he was growing up he was part of the Orthodox Greek Church, so he put across a lot of Christian teachings, but going deeper than what the average everyday Christian church will teach you. It's an esoteric rather than an exoteric. The exoteric is the everyday outside world of people studying their religions, where the esoteric goes far deeper. And it doesn't just have to be in Christianity, it can be in all faiths. There's an extra deeper meaning to everything for those that wish to seek it and wish to go further down as to what it all means. In Christianity, we've got the Old Testament, which is quite an angry God, as Mark Twain said, and Mark Twain said he preferred the New Testament God because he was more loving and kind, which is the message that Christ came with. Actually, he was bringing a message of love, uh, all kinds of love, the love for everybody, compassionate love. So I'm just going to start with a quote from All and Everything. Well, a couple of quotes from All and Everything. This religious teaching based on resplendent love, this teaching of truth and verity, the teaching of the divine teacher Jesus Christ, in which, among other things, was revealed the power of the all-lovingness and all-forgiveness of our Creator, suffering for beings. And as I just said, so Christ came with the message of love, and it's all love, love for everything, and with the understanding of love. And if we can use the heart chakra, if we want to go through the chakra versions of things, if we can awaken that love in ourselves for each other. And as I've said in previous shows, there's different types of love, not just sexual love, brotherly love, such like, but Christ is talking about the love for everything, the compassionate love. And if we can awaken that and use that when we're thinking, like go down into our heart, think with, I know we're supposed to think with our minds, but bring the love energy up to our hearts, into our heads as well, then we see things in a different, more loving and an all-round encompassing way. So this is a bit of a long quote from Views from the Real World. So he's talking about the Institute in France. The Institute can help one to be able to be a Christian. It can do so only if man has this desire, and a man will have this desire only if he has a place where constant desire is present. Before being able, one must wish. Thus, there are 3 periods: to wish, to be able, and to be. Practically all Christians are in quotation marks. Can you love or hate someone to order? Yet Christianity says precisely this: to love all men. First, one must be able, only then can one love. So to be able to love truly, you have to develop it and desire it and wish it. Unfortunately, with time, modern Christians have adopted the second half, to love, and lost view of the first, the religion which should have preceded it. Only recently have people forgotten the first half, and because of that, have lost the capacity for being able. And in some ways, we can see that happening in Christianity. It's like many Christian churches over the centuries, they don't talk about teaching the love, they talk about how we're all sinners and all the things that we're doing wrong. But if we also promote the love side of it and say that you can all love, we can love, everybody loves, if we can bring the love impulse out of ourselves and use it, then it'd be a much better place. As we all know, I'm not saying this in a hippy dippy or everybody love each other way, but it does work. Love makes the world go round, though some would argue and say money makes the world goes round. But love is an energy, and if that energy is going around the planet, people will start feeling it and being affected by it. Sometimes they might get a bit annoyed with it because it's an energy they might not understand if they're coming from a lifestyle where they're not used to that kind of thing, that they're used to negativity in their lives and living on dark energies instead. I'm not saying that they're devil worshippers or anything. I'm just saying that, some people live for drama, don't they? Some people live for everything going wrong and, oh, woe is me. Where if we can get that love impulse out there and going around and get them to get caught up in that energy in a good way, then hopefully that will help them and inspire them to change themselves and to see that there is more to life than what they're living day by day. And it comes back to that desire, then they will start desiring to live like that and hopefully start implementing it into their lives. A man who is able to do all that is demanded of a Christian, both of his mind and his essence, is called a Christian without quotation marks. And said about the quotation marks before, Gurdjieff uses it about real I, real man, and those in quotation marks are people trying to be real I, real man, people that pretend to be Christians, or those that go to church and are only Christians on Sundays. And I don't mean just with Christians, we could say it's about all religions, the Muslims that go to not the synagogue, that's the Jews, or let's say the Jews that only go to the synagogue on Saturdays, and then the rest of the week they just forget about all their religious impulses and being as they should be. Or the Muslims that only go to the mosque on Fridays and do all their worshipping then, and then believe that they can be a true Muslim and then spend the rest of the week being not a true Muslim, not a real Muslim. We could say that about all kinds of religions. The pagans that go and worship to their god or goddess on their sacred days and then spend the rest of the year just being themselves, not a real pagan, not implementing what they've been taught or what the teaching is showing them to be, or putting their religious impulse out into the world with everything that they do. We only do it now and then when it suits us. We shouldn't be. A man who in his mind wishes to do all that is demanded of a Christian, but can do so only with his mind and not with his essence, is called pre-Christian. So I suppose that's the beginning of it. If they've got it in their mind, practice makes perfect, maybe it'll go down into their essence. A man who can do nothing, even with his mind, is called a non-Christian. So Spensky goes on to say in Search for the Miraculous, people call themselves Christian, but they do not realize that not only do they not want, but they are unable to be Christians, because in order to be a Christian, it is necessary not only to desire, but to be able to be one. And I think that's what I was trying to say in my little ramble earlier. People might think they are one, but they don't desire it. They don't want to be it. They just wear it as a label. I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Jew, I'm a Buddhist. But do they implement it every day in their lives? Do you follow these, well, they're not rules, but these ways of living, these paths, and put it in every day and every aspect of your life? It's difficult. So Ouspensky goes on about the instruction. Prolonged instruction, prolonged training is necessary to be able to turn the cheek. And if this training is mechanical, it is again worth nothing, because in this case it means that the man will turn his cheek because he cannot do anything else. And that again is something I've come up against with many people during my years on this planet of, people say they do these things, but they do it all mechanically. They don't really put the effort in. And sometimes they just do it because it looks good. Or they don't know how to go further with it. I find a lot of things people don't look into the deeper theological meanings of what their religion's trying to tell them. Some people just go to church because it's the thing that their parents do, so they just copy them. And maybe they dwindle off as they grow up in their lives and grow up. As they get older and find excuses not to go or not to implement it. Not many people read scripture of any of the religions. Not many people want to read deeper into what these stories are telling us of how to be. It's easier to ignore it. You can easily get distracted from it all. And it takes effort, and we really want to do it with intent, with meaning. not mechanically. So I was going to do, oh yes, because in Search of the Miraculous, we've got the discussion of all the different types of man, man 1, 2, 3, 4, hopefully is what we're attaining to be by looking at this kind of work, man 5, 6, 7 and 8. And Ouspensky suggests that maybe Jesus Christ be man number 8. Maybe Buddha also is man number 8, because they've reached a certain level that's, we haven't ascertained to. Great if we did, and great if you did, and we're all working on it. Maybe some of us will go further up the ladder, man or woman number 8. Let's be the enlightened one. But to do that, we need to work on ourselves. But I'm going to do a long quote now from In Search of the Miraculous about Christianity. We've got to remember, Ouspensky went out to look for the answers, didn't he? He went travelling, he went to India, to the east, various places. He was visiting various religious centres, kind of like what Gurdjieff was doing in meetings with remarkable men, finding people that seem to have the knowledge and the wisdom to know how to implement religion properly into our lives. I suppose religion is seen as an institution, but the religious teachings anyone can do. It doesn't matter. You don't have to join a religion to follow the religious teachings. We can do this on our own, though it's nice to do it with other people and find like-minded people to work with. So he says, Christianity could not have been borrowed from paganism because there was nothing like it either in the Greek or Roman cults or in Judaism. The Christian church is a school concerning which people have forgotten that it is a school. And many people wonder whether this Christian teachings are a continuation of the mystery schools, which were only for certain people. You couldn't just go to a mystery school, you had to be initiated back in the olden days. What was the mystery schools teaching us? We don't really know what their rituals were or what their schooling was. Very little is left of them. Definitely no books, no writings or records. And maybe they didn't keep things written down because they did it as an oral teaching. But we know of them because other people talk about them. So there were mystery schools. And maybe they were only for those that had the desire to learn something, the desire to go deeper. Perhaps they found people that had that little kernel in them that was obvious in their day-to-day interactions with the people around them. They didn't quite fit in, kind of like an outsider, but they wanted more. They knew that what they were seeing wasn't the real world, and they wanted to go and find answers. So the mystery school probably had people like that in them, people that questioned things, not what I call the Joe Bloggs of this world that live day by day and have no interest in what could be further, what's behind the vow, as we would say in the mystery schools. And, that vow that's brought down so that most people don't know about the mysteries of the universe and how God works and such like, or the divine works. I can't remember where I was going to go with that, so I'll just carry on reading. Oh, that's where I was going to go with paganism. A lot of the old pagan traditions were taken over by Christianity, and so names were changed. Some of the old pagan gods became Christian saints so that they could encourage the pagans to come to their Christian way. Oh, look, your religion is just like our religion. Some things just the pagans wouldn't give up. Good on them. Like the Easter eggs and things like that, the Easter bunny. That's all originally pagan, part of the pagan tradition, not the Christ tradition. You don't see Christ giving out Easter eggs everywhere or discussing the Easter bunny, the hare, and what its meaning is, because that's all to do with the pagan fertility rites and the pagan traditions. And there were many different types of pagans. I'm going to just add that, pagan's just an umbrella term. Before Christianity came along, there was all types of different religious faiths and traditions and cultures and ways. You know, we had the Druids and things like that. What many people might now call modern day Wicca. There would be, in the olden days, cunning folk that used to use herbs and things to heal people, but they talked to the nature gods. They were in touch with creatures like Pan. So the old religions, oh, sorry about that, forgot to turn my phone off. The old religions were probably more in touch with the natural world and had the sky gods, the earth gods, the water gods, or water sprites, or whatever. So carrying on with Ouspensky. The Christian form of worship was not invented by the fathers of the church. It was all taken in ready-made form from Egypt, from one that we do not know. Only small bits of it survived in historical times, and these bits have been preserved in secret, and so well that we do not even know where they have been preserved. This prehistoric Egypt was Christian many thousand years before the birth of Christ. That is to say, its religion was composed of the same principles and ideas that constitute true Christianity. And that is true. I know I said earlier, you know, there was no Christianity before. Well, actually, it was quoted there. You know, we have the Christian story told in other religions. For example, with ancient Egypt, I'm sure many of you know, we've got the Isis, Horus, and Osiris story. And Isis and Horus is very like the Christian Mary and baby Jesus. And okay, so Horus wasn't crucified, but he was coming forth trying to teach good things of how to fight against the dark forces, which in a way, if you look deep into Christianity, a lot of that is about that. You know, Christ talks a lot about expelling devils and exorcising the demons. You know, these are the dark energies, and depending on which way you want to look at it, I'm going to say today that it's how we use our negative attitudes and the negativity inside us. It's dispelling all that, the dark side of ourselves. And we have to look at that. We have to look at our dark sides. As I've said in other shows, we've got to, when we're self-observing, it makes us realize that we have parts of us that we just don't really like, that don't fit in, that aren't fitting in with the work, and doesn't want to do the work. And, you know, that could be seen as what was meant by expelling and exercising the demons within us. So I have other views on all that as well, but maybe I'll do shows on that another time, not to do with Gurdjieff though. Right then. Special schools existed in this prehistoric Egypt, which were called schools of repetition. In these schools, a public repetition was given on definite days, and in some schools, perhaps even every day, of the entire course in a condensed form of the sciences that could be learned at these schools. Sometimes this repetition lasted a week or a month. Thanks to these repetitions, people who had passed through this course did not lose their connection with the school and retained in their memory all that they had learned. And this is something about the Gurdjieff work as well. He repeats a lot, and people sometimes moan about it, but he's making sure that we're getting the message in, we're getting the teachings inside us. It's coming. I don't agree with schools doing repetition at the moment and regurgitating history or whatever, but it's a bit different when we're trying to learn the esoteric way of living our lives and developing ourselves. We need to remind ourselves over and over again why we're doing this, over and over again how to do it. Over and over again, we have to prod ourselves, which is why the repetition comes in constantly. But looking at the Christ teaching, Gurdjieff has a different idea of what are quite a few things, well, not a different idea, it's what he believes that Christ was doing. Christ was developing himself ready to go on to the next world or the next stage, or to develop himself. And as many of you probably know, he talks about the Last Supper and how the Last Supper was an initiation rite. So Gurdjieff talks about how we have to develop our Keshjan body so that our soul has a body to go into when we die. And he's hinting here, and in fact I'm going to read the quotes from it because I found them, of what Christ was doing to help himself as well as to help everybody else. So this is from All and Everything. So he's talking about the Aum Zanushinu process. That process is called the sacred Aum-Zinushinul, by means of which free-centered beings who have already had time to coat and bring their own body Keshjan up to complete functioning and to a definite degree of reason, intentionally produce the coating or materialization of the body Keshjan of any being already entirely destroyed, to such a density that this body acquires again for a certain time the possibility of manifesting in certain of its functions proper to its former planetary body. So by doing this work and looking at the esoteric side of the religions of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and Buddhism, and such like, and all the others, that inner teaching, for those with ears to hear and eyes to see, is about developing yourself ready to go on with whatever happens after our death, or to prepare our body for our souls, because we're trying to make our souls here. We're trying to develop our souls so that we can live on and not get caught up in the reincarnation cycle. So carrying on all and everything, the information about what is called the Lord's Supper was nothing else but a preparation for the great sacrament Aum-Zinushinul on the body Keshjan of Saint Jesus Christ. To understand what took place at the Last Supper, it is first of all necessary to know certain laws. People who have an astral body can communicate with one another at a distance without having recourse to ordinary physical means. But for such communication to be possible, they must establish some connection between them. Christ knew that he must die. It had been decided thus beforehand. He knew it and his disciples knew it, and each one knew what part he had to play. But at the same time, they wanted to establish a permanent link with Christ. And for this purpose, he gave them his blood to drink and his flesh to eat. The Last Supper was a magical ceremony similar to blood brotherhood for establishing a connection between astral bodies. A bit complicated, not something I fully understand myself, but at the same time, I get the gist of it. I understand he was working on developing himself ready, and the disciples at the time, he could see they could develop themselves as well, and he wanted to encourage them to, so that they could then also join him in the whatever's next after this, to go on and become the next man, take their soul into their Keshjan bodies and continue their journey into their life, instead of being caught up. If you don't develop your Keshjan body, back you come to this world, I believe. But anyway, I hope that helps. I know it's quite confusing, all these different religions and religious ways, but you've got to find it in yourselves and find the God within you, that divine spark. Till next time.